Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again here at Sisseton Wahpeton College. English 210, Native American Literature with your host, Professor Victor Singing Eagle. And now, without any further ado, your host himself, the man, the myth, the legend, who is actually trying to adjust the camera, Professor Victor Singing Eagle. Yay! Right on. Welcome again to another fun day with Professor Victor Singing Eagle, your intrepid host here at Sisseton Wahpeton College. And we are today dealing with Tommy Orange, his novel, There, his debut novel, There, that is to say. Now, if you've had me in class, you've already heard this lecture, you can go ahead and skip it, but the majority of students have been missing class. Therefore, this is an honest attempt and a very good attempt at getting you caught up on what you've been missing. So here are my notes. I'm getting them all organized. We're going to talk a little bit about this novel, and I might even read a few passages from it. Hopefully I can get this all done in one video. If not, I'll have to cut it in two. You ready? Here we go. The novel itself, which was published in, I believe, 2018. Let's have a look. I didn't bring my old man glasses. Yes, 2018, is set in the lovely town of Oakland, California. We've got characters. This is a polyphonic novel, by the way. If this ever shows up on a quiz, you're going to know what polyphonic means now. A polyphonic novel is a novel that is told from multiple points of view. So this book here has many characters. I think 12 main characters, and each one of them has their own chapter, and it rotates. And we've got so many characters, I don't want to name them all. We don't have enough time. However, this is set in contemporary Oakland, California, told by various points of view. I'm only going to name 5 people right now. Tony Loneman, who is a Cheyenne Arapaho. He's about 21 years old, and he's a kid with fetal alcohol syndrome. We have Danae Oxendine, a young Navajo docu-filmmaker. He's also living in Oakland. He's trying to get everybody together, all the Indians, and make videos about their life living in the city and what it means to be an Indian, an urban Indian especially. We have Opal Viola Victoria Bearshield. She is Creek Seminole, a middle-aged woman. We have Edwin Black. He's sort of like, I want to say he's a teenager. He's mixed Creek Seminole and either black or white. I am not quite sure. I'm still reading this novel and juggling characters. And last but not least, Orville Redfeather, who is Cheyenne. He's a Cheyenne boy, probably about teenage. He's rediscovering his paternity, as is Edwin, by the way. And he's rediscovering his Indianness, I want to say. Now, let's get into the plot itself, shall we? The book begins with a very strange prologue. It starts off with a reference to an Indian head test pattern. Those of you who are about my age, X generation and older, you recognize this. Let me read without my glasses. So I got to do this old man thing here. It says, no, that's not it. I think I lost my page marker. Prologue. Here it is. There was an Indian head. The head of an Indian. The drawing of the head of a headdress long-haired Indian depicted, drawn by an unknown artist in 1939, broadcast until the late 1970s to American TVs everywhere after all the shows ran out. It's called the Indian head test pattern. If you left the TV on, you'd hear a tone at 440 hertz, probably something like that. The tone used to tune instruments, and you'd see that Indian surrounded by circles that looked like sights through rifle scopes. There was what looked like a bull's eye in the middle of the screen with numbers and coordinates. The Indian's head was just above that bull's eye. Like all you'd need to do was nod up in agreement to set the sights on the target. This was just a test. So that's the prologue, and there's a little bit more to it. It tells a little story about the ubiquitous story about the rolling head. A lot of tribes have this story. I believe this one is a Cheyenne Arapaho story that talks about the rolling head. I'll read a little bit of it. There's an old Cheyenne story about a rolling head. We've heard it said it was a family who moved away from their camp, moved near a lake, a husband, wife, daughter, and son. Anyway, they live together. The husband gets up every morning, combs his wife's hair, and puts on some red makeup on her, and then he goes off to go hunting or do what he's going to do. He's come home, and his wife, something's different about her. And he started to get suspicious. So one day he went out, and he sneaked back and followed her, and she turned out to be a water demon. And she had a water demon husband. And when the husband, the human husband, found out about this and saw this, he went and attacked and killed the water monster, the serpent that lived in this lake, and he also killed his wife, chopped up the pieces of the water serpent, snake, demon, lizard thing, and brought it home and cooked it and served it up for his children, because he's got a son and a daughter. And the kids realize this is weird tasting. And to shorten the story, suddenly a head comes rolling in. It's the head of his deceased wife. And the head chases her all over the place. So we're going to skip on down to the next scene, which talks a little bit about Alcatraz Island, where we've got, well, that actually doesn't come up yet, does it? Let me see. I'm going to scroll. Almost said scroll down. No, we want to talk about Tony Loneman first. So here's, this is Oakland, California. You can see the hills back here. Back in the old days, Oakland was the other side of San Francisco. And that's one reason why I put Alcatraz Island on here, because this is San Francisco here, you see. This is where all the rich, snooty, hoity-toity people live. And across the bay, all the poor people lived over here in Oakland. Now you can see it's starting to get gentrified. But back in the day, this was a very poor place. Now, we start our story with Tony Loneman. He has fetal alcohol syndrome, which, if you don't know, look it up. But here's a nice little diagram what shows up on e-learning. And I described him to one of those AI programs, and this is what I got. Looked kind of cool. Tony Loneman is a fetal alcohol syndrome baby, grown up to about age, I want to say 21 or so. And he's not all there upstairs because, you know, if you drink a whole lot of alcohol and you give birth to a baby, a lot of times your baby is going to grow up slow and have learning disabilities and other problems. Let me see if I can explain this that makes any sense. The story starts off with this teen. He says, I have the drome. And he's kind of angry about it, that his mom drank, you see. And he's stomping around town. I don't know why they put a New York background. It's supposed to be downtown Oakland, California. He's stomping around and he falls in with this wrong crowd, couple of, I guess you want to say Chicano Latino ruffians. Let's see if I can pull them up. There they are. Octavio, and who's the other one? Daniel, Calvin, Carlos, Thomas, some other gangsters. But these are the three ones. They're like Carlos, Octavio, and Daniel. There we go. And the main leader, we can call this guy in the middle Octavio. He has a plan, you see. He wants to rob. There's going to be a big powwow at the Oakland Coliseum. Okay? Everybody's all excited. All the natives that live, these are urban Indians, okay? They all live in Oakland, California, and they're going to have their first big Oakland powwow. And grand prizes will be these huge amounts of money. And the people who are putting this on are going to bring a safe, and instead of having money, they're going to have gift cards locked in the safe. And Octavio gets wind of it, and he has plans to rob the powwow, you see. So he goes to this fella here, who is native himself. He says, dude, what is a powwow? What happens? And the guy's not all there, but he explains powwow, you know, a bunch of Indians all getting dressed up and dancing and stuff. And I'm not going to quote from the whole thing because that's not the most important part, you see. So we're going to skip that. And for some reason, the story rewinds. That's why I have this here. We've got Alcatraz. We go back to the story of, I want to say, Opal, Viola, Victoria, Bear Shield. And this is way back in the 1960s when, according to the Treaty of, doggone it, I forgot the name of the treaty, Fort Laramie maybe? There was a treaty, you see, that the U.S. government signed with some natives, I think from here in South Dakota. It says, if the U.S. should ever abandon some federal property or let it lie fallow or just leave it laying around and nobody wants it, the Indians have a right to come and reclaim it. So when they decided to close the federal prison on Alcatraz Island, the Indians said, hey, there's this old treaty. We dust out and pull it up and we can take over this island. Why not? I mean, it's the treaty. So they did this in the 1960s to highlight the injustices that natives were facing. Oh, here's the information right here. It says here, the occupation of Alcatraz began on November 20th, 1969 and lasted until June 11, 1971. By the way, a couple of my relatives were involved in this, but we won't go there. 89 Indians supported, they occupied the island. 1868 Treaty of Fort Laramie. Well, I actually got that right. Some members, Richard Oakes, Lanada Warjack, John Trudell, Dennis Banks, all these native rights activists took over the island. And the fictionalized story is one of the participants is the mother of Opal, Victoria, Viola, Bear Shield. I'm probably saying it wrong. And they're teenagers. These are kids. The mom is bringing her to she's gotten kicked out of her apartment, you see. She lived in not an apartment, but a little house somewhere in Oakland. And she says, well, forget it. I'm just going to join all the protesters and live on this island with all these other Indians, and we're just going to make do. Well, as the story, this beginning precursor story, because this is the 70s, we backtracked from the 2000s all the way to the 70s. So it's a flashback. We've got some kids hanging out on the beach. They're drinking. And one of the boys, Opal's big sister, her name is Jacqueline. She gets it on, is a nice way to put it, with a fellow named Harvey. Two teenagers. and they're out drinking and they get drunk and they get busy. And of course, you know, Jacqueline gets pregnant. Now, Jacqueline says to Harvey later, I'm pregnant, what do I do? And he says, I don't know. And so she plans on killing the baby, but she decides instead to put the baby up for adoption. Now, you can probably see where this is warming up. How are we doing on time, by the way? 15 freaking minutes. Man, I'm going to have to cut this off and continue in the next video. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'll talk to you later.